The next pair to be evicted from the Big Brother Bbnaija No Lose God house is
That's, my people, is the end of the road for Bbnaija, Chine, and her niece Nne. Their journey in the Big Brother Bbnaija No Lose God house was cut short, courtesy of you, the viewers, who left them at the bottom four, and the custodians, Trees, Mayor, and Toby, who had the power to evict one pair, and they chose Ndine. Yes, the house is tensed as they await for this week's custodian challenge. I trust it's going to be a very intense challenge indeed, because everybody wants to get their hands on that title, because that title comes with a whole lot of power. Yes. So the show started with Ebuka talking with the housemates, more like dragging them and breaking tables. First, he started with the heads of house, and Ndine, congratulating them for being the first custodians, the first female heads of house, the first heads of house to win their wager. You guys remember them, by the way, twins last week could not win their wager. And after all that praising, he went straight for the juggler. He asked Nne, sometime last week, you were having a conversation with one of them, by the way, twins, and you said that when you heard about, the issue that happened between Chinwe and Chizoba, you don't even want to know her side of the story or what had happened, because you already know that Chinwe was in the wrong, that she probably was the cause of all the issues. And Ebuka was like, okay, tell us about that and why you came to that conclusion. And Omo, cat caught her tongue because she could not talk. She'd famed the usual thing that Big Brother Bbnaija housemates always do, amnesia. She was like, I don't really remember that conversation. I'm like, girl, you're a first class graduate. How would you say you do not remember that conversation? It's not like you were drunk or something. There was no alcohol in the system. And she later said, because of the contest, blah, 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 that's why she just didn't know. And Ebuka was like, okay, that was not an answer, but we're gonna take it. Then Ebuka went to Chinwe, who was already itching to talk, thinking that, okay, Ebuka is going to ask for a rebuttal, of what Nne had said. But what she did not know was that Ebuka came with a bazooka. Yes, fire at her. And Ebuka was like, okay, when you were having issues with your man, Zion, you were talking to DJ Flo, where you said that you practically did sponsor Zion into the house. You paid for this, you paid for that. Everything was all you, and all Zion did was to show up. What was that? And she tried to use corner way to answer the question. And Ebuka was like, I did not ask you what your relationship with him is. I asked you what about that? What was that all about? Before she said, okay, Ebuka, I think we have to take this in context. Basically, what I was saying was he was unwilling to come to the show. I practically held his hand, when anything came out, I'll be like, okay, baby, let's do this. I'll handle this. I'll handle that. That is the context with which what she had said had happened. And Ebuka was like, okay, fair enough. Yes. And Ebuka went on to ask, yes, Victoria, asking her about the mood swings that she's been having. She's been having her highs and lows in the house and the cries that she's been crying. At the end of the day, Ebuka was like, how much of this has got to do with your partner, Sean? And Kayode is a fool. The way Kayode's camera panned over to Wani and Handy, like, okay, this is about you. And she was like, no, it has nothing to do with Sean. What had happened was I had overheard Chinwe and Zion talking about how they were having their issues and they wanted to go home. And at that time, she remembered home, and that, brought a lot of emotions. That was why she was crying. I'm like, girl, bombastic side eye. Baby girl, what was that? What was that? Anyways, that was her explanation. So, and Ebuka was like, okay, but isn't it weird? That the relationship between you and your partner is kind of weird and somehow. And she was like, no, it's not weird. That Sean has his own friends. Again, Kayode focusing the camera on Wani, and Wani was like, doing eye like that. And Ebuka was like, okay, fair enough. And before that, Ebuka had already asked Ruthie, Ruthie, Pepe body don't they do am since. Like her body don't they itch to talk. She and this Wani issue has been going on for a while, ever since Wani and Onyeka exchanged words. She's been all over, talking about Wani this, even in the diary session today. And Ebuka was like, okay, make your body kukuma calm down. tell us, this thing you keep talking about people, you always have a lot to say about people behind their backs. You said, that when he had no right to come at Onyeka the way she did that day because when he does the same thing, she's rude, she's stingy and all of that. Why is it you don't go to her and tell her to her face? And she was like, oh, I told her to her face. And when it was like, nah, you did not. And she was like, yeah, I told you. Her body just did shake. Pa, 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 pa. Hey. And she was like, oh, I told you. Who is one that I cannot tell her to her face? I'm like, Ebuka, burn down this house because that is what I want. And she was like, oh, I told her. And that's who she is, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. I mean, the drama that will happen this week, I want it. I love it. Especially because the pattern words that Ebuka had for the housemates was, some of you are just playing safe. You are just hiding your safe. You are thinking we don't see. We know what you're doing. We know, we see. You think it's only Big Brother that sees? We do see you. And we can see right through you. And what he doesn't want is they will step onto, the stage after they've been evicted and say, oh, had it been I knew, I would have done this, done that. Like, stop playing safe, be yourself. And that was his parting words. So putting two and two together, I think that this week is going to be intense and interesting. Also because now that Ndine has been evicted, them, by the way, twins don't look too happy because those guys were their people. While the show was about ending, I overheard, I think it was Nelly or somebody, I'm not sure who, that actually said, that was a very stupid decision that the custodians had made. I'm like, stupid for who? You wouldn't expect them to evict Flourish. Neither would you expect them to evict Chinwe and her man because they are obviously close, with them. Obviously, will not also expect them to evict the radicals because they've got soft spots for them. So yeah, the only other option there is Ndine. And I'm very sure it was not an easy decision. Like when I saw evict only and I see that Aces were not part of that, lineup, I just told myself, Ndine is about to go home. Talking about Aces, Mayor Forge was asked about his dislike for Suj, what he had been saying to his partner about Suj. I expected him to actually, say all those things he wanted to say, but guy was just, he came from a lion to a kitten because he was just like, it's just because of something that happened, in the garden. That was why, I just felt blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just say it's about Nelly because, the camera panned on her face. It's about woman. Now, woman, the cause sound, Like, why is it that they can't stand on their words? Like, that's why you see ex-housemate like V, like Tacha, like Fina, they stand on business. And I expect this housemate to stand on business. You say something behind somebody, come to their face and say it. Haba. Anyways, it was a good one. I look forward to the custodian challenge because whoever is going to win it is going to be epic. I'm going to tell you why it's going to be epic because I checked that box. It was actually 3 boxes and 2 has been exhausted by, of course, the first custodians and Streets, the second custodians. Now, if one pair wins this night, that means there's not going to be any more boxes. Meaning that after this 3rd week, there might be a switch, a flip, or a change in the show. That's what I think. Because Big Brother has anything Big Brother does, there must be a reason. There's no way he'll put 3 boxes in there for just no reason at all. So that's my own take. Before I go, this is how you guys nominated or voted. The Radicals had 5.61%. Ndine had 4.18%, Zinwe had 3.70%, while Flourish had 1.90%. Meaning, if we were to go through the normal route of, evicting the least voted housemates, it would have been Flourish or Zinwe. Flourish, in this case. But this is why it's good to make acquaintances and connection, or maybe even kiss here and there, because you never know which kiss is going to save you from eviction. Yes, but all in all, I think the happiest people here has got to be the Aces because, imagine saying that Aces 4 under bottom 4. Yeah, they would have gone home. Mayor no one use the IC suit for that house, but we thank the Lord that they did not end in the bottom 4. On that note, I'd like to say a very big thank you to you all for being part of my channel. If you have not yet subscribed, kindly click on the subscription button and click on the notification bell to let you know whenever I post any new video until I come your way again. I remain your darling girl, Azine Williams.